This is Josh Kirby, and you are listening to Media Interactive's podcast X, Y, and Z. Now let's send it to your hosts, Kayla Pearson and Andrew Matthew.
What's up, my people?
Yo.
Welcome to podcast X, Y, and Z, the world's number fun video game podcast.
What's
Caleb
up?
Pearson, to my far right, Andrew Matthew.
Let's go. But we have
How you doing? We have a
another
special
person.
guest here with us today, Jason Uhry.
Thank you.
How you doing, man?
Doing well, and I really like that intro. World's number fun.
Yeah.
That's very catchy.
Tell me that's not true.
Caleb
No,
has
you know
these
what I mean?
really good catchphrases.
No, it
that
really
he
is,
uses.
and that's very catchy. And it
I do what I
actually
can.
work.
I do
How
what I
are
can.
people not, coming into that is beyond me.
pretty cool.
I really like that.
Guys, we've been really excited to have a guest on the show. You guys have been asking for it. We have it now. In our Christmas sweaters, if you are listening to this.
Where's your Christmas sweater, Uhry?
Oh, well, here's my,
Yeah,
here we are.
he's-
The red, white, and blue. Go Patriots.
Tis the
There
season,
you go.
right?
Yeah, tis
We're
the
in
season.
December. Is
Yes,
that our
tis the
is that
season.
our fourth month? That can't be right. It is?
It's our
No,
fourth
no,
month
no,
of
no.
podcasting.
No, that's not true.
3 months of podcasting.
3 months.
Wow.
How many do you
we're in our
do? Once
third.
a week?
Yeah, we do this once a week. We do another podcast once a month, and then we'll kind of stream and do reviews of video games and stuff as well.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's exciting.
So we're out here, Christmas.
Yeah.
If you're listening, thanks for listening. If you're watching live,
Happy holidays.
Happy
Find us on
holidays.
YouTube, or you can find our homepage at patreon.com/mediainteractive. You can become part of the community. You get to be on the show like this guy,
Yeah,
or you get to be
absolutely. Happy
eligible for all
holidays to
sorts of
everyone.
giveaways. Yeah.
All right.
Are you excited for Christmas?
Yeah.
Did it come up fast on you?
Yeah, it actually has,
Yeah.
and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are. I mean, everything actually leading up to the Thanksgiving time frame, Black
Yeah.
Friday, all that shopping.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. As my teaching years continue to pass, and I'm going into I think my 18th year.
18.
Yeah,
18
total
years.
between
I
two
love it.
states.
I
It's
love it.
unbelievable.
That's crazy.
The days and the years go pretty
Pretty
fast.
I believe that.
That's cool.
I age like a fine wine. I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep telling yourself that. Right?
Yeah.
No,
Ooh,
that's great.
this water's good.
Well, Uhry, I mean, we were talking a little bit before going on air just about Andrew and I starting this,
Yeah.
about our passions
Yep.
and what we like. And our first podcast, we both kind of spent some time talking about, we kind of called it our video game history,
Sure.
our story in video games and what that means
Excuse
to
me.
us. What has your experience been like, whether it be growing up or as an adult or with a family and with kids, with video games? Where you come from as far as that's concerned?
Boy, I have it's funny you say that because I was when you reached out to me, I was thinking about it after how I think it's my particular generation. Like I was thinking people in my age gap, Gen X. Anyone that might be 10 years older might not have fallen into
Yeah.
the video game.
Yeah,
I grew up starting playing video games. When Atari 2600 came out, my parents bought it, and I remember the many different games that actually were there. I remember on different holidays, how going to a holiday for a relative can be boring if you're a little kid.
Yeah.
My grandparents actually had one because of my mother's brother, who happened to be my uncle, but he was a younger,
Gotcha.
brother, and he happened to have one who'd be able to play it. And then when Nintendo, the NES came out,
Yeah.
it seemed like the rest was history. And Nintendo did a good job of bringing games out that you were familiar with, because prior to that, where a lot of you millennials, it was all arcades.
Sure.
Okay, there were I grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and there were two larger arcades.
Yeah.
And you used to go there all the
pretty cool.
time to play.
Yeah.
All these different things. So I remembered actually playing Super Mario Brothers on the arcade, and then just like with any video game where these games happen to be patterned, it was a matter of watching the game, and there was nothing. And I still remember it now. And my wife, laughs at me "Wow, is that your highlight of your life?" Maybe.
That's a good highlight.
Yeah, maybe. But I remember that one time that I put 1 quarter in to Super Mario Brothers. And went through the whole thing without dying.
Oh.
Yeah.
How long did that take?
Oh my God!
hours?
I can't remember
Yeah.
rolls of quarters dumping
Yeah.
into that to be able to figure
pretty
out the
cool.
pattern. But I remembered playing Tetris and getting to a point where you just kept going and kept going and kept
Dang.
going. And I remembered watching one person who kept like dumping quarters in and thinking he was going to get the highest score. And it was one of the funniest memories. We're playing games in arcades where the score was 999,999. He thought he was going to break 1,000,000, and it just reverted back to 0.
Oh,
This was, and at the time,
It
I'm
didn't
like
let
a
him hit
teen-
1,000,000.
It didn't. I'm
Oh,
like a
man.
teenager,
Yeah.
and we busted out laughing because this guy was so mad. He stormed out of like the
That would've
arcade.
been
Oh,
so
my
bad.
Just like different things like that, where we played these games, and Nintendo ended up having some of them like readily available. So now you have like your gaming system in your house.
I never thought about that.
There were like so many games
Yeah.
at the time, and then ended up. As time passed, of course, we ended up upgrading, which I believe was the Super NES after, and then to
Yeah.
the GameCube. But I still ended up playing both. Had the NES in my room, did the wiring for that, and just can clearly remember summers, where nowadays, people, I'd say kids, and maybe even such as yourself, play and do everything like online, the
Yeah.
handheld small computers we have in our pockets and the gaming. But at that time, I still ended up playing like video games for hours at night, before I ended up going to
Sure.
bed. Different baseball games, ice hockey, soccer. One game that sticks out called Double Dribble, where it was a basketball.
Double dribble
It was
on NES.
NES. It was a basketball game. My friend and we must not have had anything better to do, of course, like anyone else. And you could set up the quarters to the minutes that you wanted. And the two of us, we set like each quarter for like 60 minutes.
Why would you do that?
So the score ended up being like 434 to like 432 by the time that we finished.
That sounds like a bad idea.
It was a very bad idea, but of course, when
You had to do it,
we wanted to see what it was like. But when you're a teenager, adolescent, you do a lot of dumb things.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the worst case scenario. I guess I turned out well.
So what time period of your life would you say like video games were the most pivotal or at their peak? Like, do you have a favorite time period or a favorite console that you will always remember playing more than anything else?
I would say in the 80s, mid 80s, and
Yeah.
again for me, I would say it's probably the regular NES, because
Okay.
when Nintendo brought out like the NES. It came out a couple of years ago. God, I'm drawing a blank.
The classic.
The classic, I looked high and low because when I saw the games on, I was like, oh my God, it'd be so great to play these games again.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of the games, and for anyone that like has them knows that all of them came with the gray background. I mean, I tell you, one of the reasons I wanted to get that was just to play Zelda again.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I played Zelda forever. Like that was so unique because it came in a gold cartridge.
Yeah,
And it was entirely different. And I believe there was like a map that came in with the packaging to help you out, which is
That's
funny.
true.
But,
The age without like internet guides.
You just
Dude,
got to figure it out, man.
There's no way I would be able to.
You gotta
compete
wing
games
it.
well, and
today
that's what's
without-
funny because I could remember a lot, and I still like knew where a lot of things are. And I'm not going to lie and pretend to say I knew everything. Super Mario Brothers, I still know like where a good probably 95% of everything is. But I remembered. Oh God! 2 months ago, I ended up seeing something on Facebook. Some kid tied the actual time to beat Super Mario Brothers, and so I had to watch it. And
The speed runs?
the speed runs, exactly, and it was fantastic to watch. But there was one particular thing that I saw him go through to like tie the world record that I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
So I mean, you learn something all the time, even
Yeah.
30 years later. So to answer that question, I would say like in the mid '80s, like when I was, early teenager, like when the video consoles came out, like, and then the video games really started to like pump out. I mean, I really liked Atari, and Atari I think did a decent job of advancing some of their games, but then it's like with anything. I remember having there was a time frame when I played the Super NES and still had that, and all of a sudden I remembered a friend of mine getting in touch with me and saying, do you want a PlayStation? I'm like, what are you talking about right now? A PlayStation. It's because we had these other games, and then I was much older that time frame.
Sure.
Maybe mid-20s going to late 20s, and then he said he knew someone that, because coming out, he could end up like holding one for me, and then it just seemed like that snap of a finger, technology changed.
Yeah.
Went from like these cartridges and inserts to like everything on like
So that was the experience for you, a PlayStation?
Yeah,
got?
Yeah, the DVD.
Yeah.
Like concept, and
Okay.
then of course I remember when PlayStation 2, and I still have the original PlayStation.
Okay, I was
yeah.
going to ask. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I've used it here and there, depending on, time,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it is not one of the smaller, thinner ones. It's like, larger,
Yeah.
thicker one, front loader. And I remember different people that had that one, and as time passed, it ended up dying because it just heated up too much. But mine's never had an issue, and,
There you
continues to
go.
work to this day.
There you go.
It's a collector's item then. Original PlayStation.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting point, like, to think about the characters that you were to see on Nintendo games that you were, like, happy about because you saw them in arcade games. Because I think for a lot of people our age, like, I would say, like, me, like, when I see these Nintendo characters, I think their life starts with Nintendo. Like, I don't think about how...
A lot of people don't think that, because
Yeah.
I ended up... if you were, I can't remember if it just came out. Just I remembered seeing the movie trailer for that rock movie called Rampage.
Yeah,
with the giant ape, and it was just funny how it seems like there was like a little surge in the last year or two of, and maybe more that are going to be coming out of movies based on video
Yeah.
games. And I remember that arcade particularly
That's pretty
before it went to like Nintendo, and you had like a larger game.
Yeah.
You had two people that could. I think it was actually 2 or 4 joysticks in area where you could just stand, and you just ended up like
Destroy
going
things.
in, and you ended up like joining in as like the giant ape or some other giant
interesting.
a crocodile or whatever
Yeah.
the case is, that they had. And
Yeah.
You just had to like go and destroy like the city,
Yeah.
but yet it was something that was entertaining. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Like,
to,
it's a good point that
to
you
think
say
about
that.
like Mario being featured on a console because
Right,
I
and
always think of like
a
Mario
secondary,
started with Nintendo.
right? And he's a secondary character in
Yeah.
the video game Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is Nintendo, acquires all these characters because it's no secret that Nintendo pioneered video games outside
Yeah.
of arcades to into your home. But what we're seeing now,
It's funny you say Donkey Kong because that
yeah.
happens to be on like the classic and Donkey Kong Jr.
I'm sure it is.
Donkey Kong Jr. was actually an arcade as well, and I remembered it being at a bowling alley, to
Yeah.
just
to
dance,
pass time.
to like pass time, like a bowling alley that people went to go to like to play.
Well, it's
And-
because you're supposed to have fun in a bowling alley, and no one's gonna have fun bowling.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you have to put in.
But I
Donkey
remembered,
Kong.
and I was able to actually start going through Donkey Kong Jr. like on the NES Classic without skipping a beat, just remembering the timing of different things. So it's funny
Yeah.
how that they didn't have changed too much for like
Yeah.
this
Right.
retro small
Yeah.
piece, and you were
Yeah.
being able to get through like the different levels.
That's true because another big part of those games were just memorization. Like
Oh,
now we
abso-
talk
Right.
about games
Absolutely.
like open world.
It changes
characters.
each time you play it, but then it's like I still know it. Like people say, I know that map. I know
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 3 like the back of my hand.
Well, here's another thing I'd like you to consider looking at too,
Yeah.
and I've never seen it, but I know like there's a documentary called King of Kong, and
I've watched it.
and it highlights. So
Yep.
is it good?
It's hilarious.
And that's what
I will
I
not say it's
heard.
good. I'll say it's hilarious.
And what I didn't realize is that a couple friends, one time I posted something on Facebook and they had commented about it, and they said it's at the American Arcade Museum. And it's funny because when he shared me a picture, and now that I follow it on Facebook, I didn't realize that was like a former location. And if you're, you two may never be to the New Hampshire area, but you should really look at it online. And it's very neat because that was an area that is in the Lakes region in New Hampshire,
Okay.
and it was called Fun Spot. And besides like all these arcades that they had other different types of things. It was almost like sort of a prelude to like the adult version of Dave and Buster's, but not like as cool as Dave and Buster's. Okay, but yet they had all these different things. But it was supposed to be family oriented. And across the street were these go-karts that you can go to that like were fun. And when I heard that they renovated that place to be complete like retro arcade and pinball machines, I went online to look at it, and it was just amazing.
So
to,
they
like,
still
think.
kept the old arcade games and stuff.
They did, yes, and it was just funny to hear that, like with that King of Kong, that they actually filmed, I guess, the
Right.
competition
Oh, yeah,
at that place.
yeah.
And I was thinking,
You
oh
should
my
watch
God,
it. You should
I've
really
been
watch
there.
it. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
pretty cool.
I should
Yeah.
actually start telling people, oh, did you see me in the background when they were filming? I was such a young lad.
Young Uhry in the
Yeah.
background. We got 9 viewers now. What's up, guys?
What
Submit
up,
your
new
questions.
viewers? We're here with special guest Jason Uhry. Feel free, subscribe to our YouTube if you haven't already.
Yeah,
that helps
subscribe.
us out so much.
Subscribe to these guys
that's
because
the best thing to do.
they deserve it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
I appreciate that so much.
What else we got on the news docket?
Yeah, thank you for sharing a little bit of
That
your
is pretty cool.
video
Yeah,
game
no, I
past.
mean,
If you had to select your favorite video game of all time, what would it be?
Oh my God! See, that's a tough question. So I mean, if
Just
you're gonna
one.
if you're gonna ask that question though, you're gonna ask all time. You're gonna ask console. Okay,
Like on a certain console?
Yeah, well, because I'm wondering because I'm sure
No, just like most memorable
most
video game
okay.
across consoles.
I think if you word it that way, most memorable is nice because everyone has a certain game
Sure.
that they always play it all the time. I mean, even like the listeners now could be thinking
true.
similarly when it comes to like a certain console. It becomes easier to say of all time. That's kind of like saying what's your favorite movie of all time. You might have one, but there's so many great movies that you've seen.
Hey, if you're watching this right now, type in your favorite game of all time. I want to see which console gets the most games. Type in your favorite game of all time.
I'm telling you, I mentioned it already. Man, I just loved playing Zelda.
Is that it?
And then the sequels that came.
Was it just called Zelda? Or
It was The Legend of Zelda.
It was just called Legend.
And then 2 was Legend of Zelda. 2, I believe, A Link to the Past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the most recent one, my eldest actually ended up, buying last year, playing
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
So you were able to see it?
Oh, I was able to see it and play it with him.
Isn't that crazy?
It was incredible because it's just amazing to see how the different games have changed. I mean, all the games I'm mentioning to you are sort of very one-dimensional, left to right or kind of went around. And I think it was Tomb Raider when that came out.
When did that come out?
The original?
Original,
man. I remember what it looked like.
It seemed to remind me of video games have just taken a different turn. And that's the one for me personally that where you can start to go, full screen all around, where someone just left to right.
Instead of top down, it's like a third person kind of behind
exactly.
So I can just imagine people being mad about that. Yeah. Now it's like everything. People be like, "Why do they ruin video games?"
And nowadays, I mean, we're using Breath of the Wild. It's amazing to me, how everything is there, and there's so many different things. It's just it's amazing to me.
We got Call of Duty 4. We got
It's a good answer.
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt. You know that? You remember that?
I do remember that.
And then we got Red Alert, Command and Conquer Red Alert, which
I've never heard of that.
I've heard of it, but I've never played. Pinto said Red Alert.
Pinto.
So I think that he played that on PC, maybe, if we can get an answer from Pinto.
Throw in Destiny for me.
So we got Destiny from
Witcher 3, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Is Destiny fun? Because I haven't played it, and I heard
it is
Wait,
fun.
So do you have a current console other than Switch right now?
Do you have
Pardon me?
Do you have an Xbox, PlayStation?
Like, what's your house video game?
Right now, I'm not saying this to offend anybody out there because I know people always go crazy, but I'm a PlayStation person.
Yeah,
I have been.
Did you see my sweater?
I got that. Yeah, I did see it when I came in. I didn't get the memo on the Christmas sweater.
Yeah,
I would have worn one,
we sent that out to nobody.
Yep. So I'm festive for the Northern
jiggling
Virginia
over there,
area. I'm a PlayStation person, and yes, we have.
You have a PS4.
PS4, PS3, PS2. I told you that.
Classic PlayStation. Wow, you have everything.
Yep, and my son uses my eldest uses the PS4 more, which is perfectly fine. I use the PS3 here and there for different games, and we have it, of course, as the console to be able to stream, television, Hulu, Netflix.
We got Capcom Marvel Heroes PlayStation 1 from our friend from.
Oh wow! Nice
Marvel Heroes.
Persuade Me Please.
Okay,
I think
I
is
like
his name.
that.
Nice.
And then we got Skyrim.
Skyrim. Okay, I should have known that would have been in
But
there.
Noel has said 3 answers. Noel has said...
No, pick your favorite. Not some of your favorites.
And then,
I'm telling you, the next time
it's hard
that if I'm invited back to this show, and hopefully that I'm doing well.
No, it's good. Yeah.
I should not.
You're actually here to take both our spots. So next week it's just gonna be him.
Dude, we should have started that way. It's just Yuri's like, "What's up, guys?" I couldn't find Andrew.
No
or Caleb.
problem.
Like, hey, where are they?
No problem. I'll free my schedule, look at my calendar, and we'll get people. I was just thinking of a couple buddies that I live up north. They probably would have got a kick out of me listening and probably would have chimed away with different video games as well.
Yeah.
I think that my favorite game, my most memorable game, might be Halo 1 or 3.
Not 2.
Not
without
2.
Arbiter, really.
Yeah, because when I was really little and I couldn't even play video games because it was rated M, my mom said you could just only watch.
Sure.
My cousins played the first Halo.
Yeah.
And then there was a time period where I grew up and then Halo 3 finally came. It was the first game that I bought was Halo 3. So that might be the most memorable experience. Noel says again, Battlefront 2. So Noel has said 10 answers. So.
OG Battlefront 2, I'm
But
assuming.
OG Battlefront 2 is probably
it is very good.
one of the best
Well, it's
party
funny you
games.
say that because as I'm hearing you in these different answers, I've teetered with these different games, and I can't say that I've played them and I've beaten them because it's interesting to hear like the different time frame or like I guess like ages of where I'm giving some history and info and how all of you are with the games. And I don't know if it's like multi-dimensional, but I know like that all of you like are used to like playing games like online now, and that like is that is so huge because you can play because you can play against anyone.
I love that nobody said Fortnite. I love it.
You can play against like friends like anywhere or like happen to like play like in the house, and there's so much that goes with them. I do think like that all the video game companies are very smart though in how they actually get the money off everybody with all like the different packs or upgrades, and we're not just talking about like one video game company doing it, how all of them
across the board.
I mean, it's like literally full economies in game. Also, here's an interesting thing that I read about Fortnite, which might shock people, but might not shock people. They have literally like rehab sessions for 5-year-olds that go through withdrawal.
No, they don't.
I'm reading this.
So it's twofold. One is there are rehab sessions. The other is there are tutors getting paid $30 an hour to tutor children to be better at Fortnite.
Because think about it, like kids are born with an iPad. Like when I was a kid, my mom would just like pinch me when I was on an airplane to like make me not cry. Now kids are just handing an iPad and handing Netflix. My 4-year-old cousin knows how to do Bluetooth.
Well, seriously, I mean, look at how technology is. I mean, Facebook is, and I mentioned Facebook, and obviously I'm showing my age, but I mentioned it numerous times in class, and I don't know if you two guys are on there more than the other ones, but it seems like a trend where high school students don't go on that, but as they end up
they'll come back
out to Facebook, it becomes a thing. When I was younger, there was nothing like that. I mean, if you wanted to reach out or try to find someone. I mean, I guess there was phone books, but I didn't spend hours looking at the phone book to try to reach out to someone.
What's a phone book?
Exactly. I mean, all these different things that are there. And I just think hearing these answers are very interesting, and it just shows the difference in time and how technology is.
Right.
Fortnite's a very interesting concept, just considering that they made it free, and it started to make me wonder once that came how many other ones were going to end up starting to be that way. Yeah. I don't see Xbox or Microsoft and Sony going that direction yet, because I still think that what's working for them is working, and people are going to continue to buy those games.
Yeah.
But,
and
there's no reason to go that direction.
Yeah. You made a good point about across the board the video game industry changing at that point and kind of what technology is doing. And I want to run through a few news items with you. Okay. So this is something we do every week. Andrew and I kind of pick up the news.
We don't have a news transition song.
You want to do our news transition? You know how there's weather segments and now to
news transition.
News transition.
That's it. All right, we're gonna do that. Every time.
Loosen them up.
All right. So I want to run these by you as well. With the video game industry, it's on the up and up.
Absolutely.
The Game Awards are this week, so I want to ask you a question right off the bat. Have you heard of the Video Game Awards?
I have heard of them.
You have heard of them? Okay.
I have.
So they have been around for probably 10 years now, and have been good for maybe 3 years now. So they've been kind of attaining this status and working up and up and up. And so we are excited to watch that. No TV channel airs it. No network is partnered with it. It is strictly a journalist that took it on himself to do this. And so now it's streamed live to YouTube. It's streamed live to Twitch. I don't know if you're familiar or have heard of that.
I have, yes.
There are all these different platforms.
So what is he doing? Is he recording on his phone and then uploading it?
No, so it's massive.
Now
it's live streamed like we are being live
streamed. Oh, you mentioned when he first started. Okay.
So now it's legit, and it's a full-on production, and they work on it year-round. So he's a host. There will be speakers, and we mentioned before going on the air, the Avengers trailer and directors will be there, which is a big deal.
Absolutely.
So Andrew and I are going to watch that live to do news coverage. But
are we going to go see Avengers together if you guys are still around?
He's not a superhero guy, but I'm going.
If anybody's gonna,
I'm
if
coming
anybody,
over here then. Okay?
wait, you can't go over there. The mic's in the way.
Oh, sorry.
If anybody would get me to watch a
Aquaman,
superhero
December,
movie, it would
Oh,
be.
man,
Spider-Verse,
seriously?
It would be
All
either.
right,
anyways,
anyways.
alright.
Video
Y'all
games,
can get a
video
room and
games,
shut.
yeah. Video games,
Okay,
we
yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
But here's what I want from you. I mean, do you watch like the Oscars and the Emmys and the Golden Globes? Is that a part of?
Yeah, actually, my wife and I have started watching that,
Okay.
and I think that might have been like early to mid 30s. We
Okay.
just started watching the different shows, and I think it was because of the different movies that we were watching, and I feel it could actually be a lot because from Titanic. Because when Titanic came out, I remember going to the movie theater to see it,
Yeah.
and I just ended up seeing something the other day how that was in the theaters for 287 days, like, and they of course measure that based on being in any theater,
Sure.
nationwide, or I guess worldwide, and it was just remarkable to think that's almost a year that it was in the movie theaters, and it did incredible amount, like,
Yeah.
with the Oscars, like, by winning, but I mean, it was such ahead of its time. You almost feel bad for, like, the other movies that came
Yeah.
out that year because they had no chance to win anything.
And so, you know how those.
And I think it was after that
Yeah.
we just started watching more because we started seeing, like, different movies, and we started to get curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for Emmys, yeah, I'd say Emmys we always watch because you watch television. But that's a thing that's something for another time.
Yeah.
Or not even this podcast, but how like television, is so different nowadays where it's streaming and
Right.
we watched it when it
I
was
wish,
that.
Caleb, I wish we had a segment where we talked about TV and movies.
Yeah. We have another podcast.
You
here,
do?
once a month.
All
Podcast remastered. I don't know when we're gonna do that this month quite yet. We got Andrew and I have
to
to
be
talk.
honest with you, to sum that up,
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed watching the Grammys mainly because I liked watching the musical.
The
Sure.
performances.
Well, and that's the thing.
I've
is-
always been actually big to actually see people collaborate and do
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
together. To come out. Just because they
Yeah.
and you can see how they all admire each other,
Yeah.
even though they're from different music genres.
And one thing that's cool about the Grammys, you mentioned, they have all these songs and stuff during the awards. And the Game Awards itself is not only an award show, but they actually show trailers and release new games there.
Yeah.
So imagine if the Oscars and the Emmys, they were actually launching new pilots and new TV shows. That's kind of what the Game Awards is like. Does that sound like something that would be entertaining for you to watch? I mean, what do you look for in an awards show?
Yeah, I would actually watch it because
Yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing like with the newer games that would.
Yeah.
I particularly for like the different things. It sounds like it's.
It's all very cinematic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds different from the video game summits that end up coming out, and I ended up paying attention to some of that,
Yeah.
To like
over
the
the
summer,
years.
like E3 stuff.
Yeah, but then it just seemed like sometimes they were, it was carrying on too much. Or
Sure.
I wasn't getting enough information,
Yeah.
or I was actually waiting forever to actually hear like
Yup.
what I wanted to hear, and that could be the case with this video game awards because if you're, I mean, like with any award show, they're not going to show the most popular like a release right at the beginning.
They're gonna dangle you
They're going to keep you to
forever.
wait, which only makes sense.
It's like the
But
old, yeah.
you like want to be able to like see these things because
Yeah.
I don't. My wife asked me just last week before I went on the New York trip if I watched that television show that is out there because she figured it'd be right up my alley, and I already forgot the name of it. But
Wait,
like,
what is it?
It's the one. It's a video game competition. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's one where like. These different like teams, like face each other.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on regular. I don't even remember.
on
what
Is it?
regular
It's on the actual TV.
Yeah, well, we have like Roku sticks. So
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
but it was, like,
I'm
really
sure
good.
it's.
Future
I'm
Do
sure it's
anybody-
E3
yeah,
or
well,
I mean esports.
Yeah, something like that. Do any of our listeners know what I'm referring to? Please type it in. But nevertheless, it was great because I do watch it here. Then the last one was the teams were playing each other like Super Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah.
esports stuff,
It's
right?
just
Yeah.
esport, yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, of course I watch it.
It's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's
Someone
fun.
said
It's-
Wreck-It Ralph is what you're talking about.
No, not Wreck-It Ralph.
That's what your mom said. She said Wreck-It Ralph.
No, not Wreck-It Ralph. Okay, Ralph breaks the internet. I know. I was in my living
But
room
yeah,
watching. okay?
nonetheless,
I'm not going crazy.
nonetheless, we are excited for the Game Awards. News item number 2, and we kind of talked about this a little bit. Super Smash Brothers is out this week,
Yeah, sorry. Ooh,
and I
Thursday
pre-ordered.
night.
I pre-ordered that. We kind of touched on this. I want to hear from both of you. So, what is our experience with Nintendo characters? I'll say who's your favorite Nintendo character and why? And then I also kind of touching on the esports stuff. Why do you guys think Nintendo has found such success in the competitive arena, even though it's a very cartoony? I mean, its origins are arcadey and silly, but yet it's up there as a competitive game.
Yeah, Steph, you want to start it up?
No, you can. Give me a moment to
Yeah.
different.
I think that speaking of competitive, I think that it's just always been.
I can pull up a list. You want to see them?
Yeah, do
Okay.
that.
There's 77. I'm sure you couldn't name them.
that's a lot.
I think I would need to like see that just for the sake.
I think for the question about competitive nature, I think that Nintendo has always been able to like have people answer the argument who's the best in the room. Like with games that came out later, Nintendo was the first to say if you're in a room with people, you can actually challenge someone to a video game with games like Mario Kart and Super Smash. So I think that it's competitive for so long because it's been the first one to do it. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
It has started, and the controller is like universal. That if everyone needs to get on a GameCube controller, it's one of those like things that's like.
God, I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, I guess I would have to, by looking at them, I would definitely have to say I'm partial to Donkey Kong, Link, because I played,
so many
played
characters.
Zelda. Man, that is
70 playable, 7 more unlocked.
I mean, like, I'm going to play Link, and I'm going to play Toon Link.
No! I'm Toon Link. We've been over this.
I've always liked Yoshi. People might laugh at me.
He's annoying in the game.
And, there's another one right there. Boy, that was another game I forgot to mention when I see it number 4.
What was it?
Metroid.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that was a game that actually allowed you to go all over the place, and there were so many corners, nooks and crannies to like explore. There's so many things to like find. I always forget about that when we're talking about Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Does Nintendo or Mario like play any role in your house, like with your son and the Switch? Like, do you guys have Mario Party, Mario Kart, or any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
That's why I referenced the particular. You say it was esports, probably. That I was watching because it's so easy to like watch these games.
Yeah.
And with these people are fighting each other, and I'm like commenting from my living room, like, oh, look at this idiot. I would have done the same move, but who am I? I probably would have been ousted. In the first 5.
They started
seconds.
Streaming Madden on ESPN stuff. Like they do. Like,
Did they really?
ESPN3 like esports Madden, where they'll have like huge competitions where they play like that, which is
just
crazy.
I mean,
that's another thing. There's so many video games. I remember playing all these sort of like sports games when I was younger. I remember going over to my one friend and playing like early versions like Madden against him. And this was at a time, of course, when the remotes were not wireless, and I can clearly remember on different occasions coming from behind and beating him, and him just chucking his controller, and then of course it pulls out of like the video game console because it's not like wireless, but still like hysterical. And I can't even remember. I mean, I think at that time frame, I think like when we're talking games, because like sports, everybody wanted to play like Green Bay because of Brett Favre.
True.
Cowboys, 49ers.
You
those
picked
were the teams that like
99 overall.
Exactly, because I mean, let's be serious. I mean, even people in Cleveland are not picking the Cleveland Browns to play if they if they actually have Madden 19.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that plays into the other question too. Is like there's so many different options for competition today.
Yeah.
Whereas when Smash and Mario Kart came out, there was one way to settle disputes. We're gonna hop on Smash Brothers, and I think that's why they've maintained this ability to say like this is the most competitive game of all time. If you're going to be frustrated and want to settle disputes, it's because there wasn't 100 different options. You couldn't say, well, load up Battlefield or Halo. It was like, either you play Smash or you go home. Like, you had to know how to compete, and that was the party game, and it's still...
Well, and that actually makes sense to, to hear him say that, because, it's ultimately competitive, and that's kind of like what the nature is, because thinking back to the different types of, like, games... There's always been like 1-player and 2-player options, and people will always like play against each other, and that was the same thing like when it came to like arcades.
Right, yeah.
You're playing the game by yourself, or you're actually playing against somebody else.
Like Street Fighter, stuff like that.
And that was exactly what I was just about to say. I mean, those like fighting games. you know, when like particularly when Mortal Kombat came out.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually like the first, the first graphic game.
Yeah,
and
true.
my mom, you know, didn't mind, didn't have an issue with me playing with it. I
Ooh.
mean, she let me. I mean, that's probably why I turned out the way I am. No, just kidding. But you know, I remember it was very graphic because when you pointed out, Andrew, to finish him, you know, when you're pulling the guy's like, you know, head and spine out of his body, you know.
Yeah.
It's what every 13-year-old needs to see, right?
Oh, hey, it's completely realistic.
Yeah,
you know?
and people that play competitive games, I mean, that is their thing. I mean, Andrew, you mentioned like just how big it is and how into it they are. Like even games like Fortnite or other games that are kind of a surprise to the industry, you see people that are good at Fortnite and are playing competitively, and if they're streaming, if you're learning about them, they're introduced as they've played Smash for 10 years, and then they've tried Fortnite, or they did that like Ninja did.
Yeah.
Did he do Halo or something, or I don't know
He did
what?
all a bunch of
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But this season specifically is massive for video game industry because you have Call of Duty and Smash.
Yeah.
Both coming out like at the same year, which Call of Duty's every year, but Smash is not.
Yeah.
Those two tentpoles of the industry alongside Rockstar releasing their game, and they're the people that make Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead. Yeah.
Thank you.
All three of
Not
those.
that old, listeners, but thank you.
Just giving you some context here. I'm being a good host. All three tentpoles of the video game industry. Call of Duty, Smash Brothers, Rockstar, right? This season is jam-packed, but you see everybody waiting for Smash.
Do you play the Red Dead?
We went through it together.
We just beat it.
Do you like it?
Loved
it. Was
it's an experience.
Yeah, well, Rockstar does a very good job, and they take their time. I mean, and I know lots of people get impatient in regards to that, but they do a very good job when they put like the games out. I remember when I ended up going to GameStop. To pick up a game that I pre-ordered, and that's got a story for another time.
GameStop.
Yeah, the guy that was there ended up telling me how he ended up like pre-ordering it like 6 months before, and then it got pushed back.
Yep.
And that was similar to the game that I was picking up. But like I said, I'll tell you the story another time. It's something I want to forget.
Every time you walk into GameStop, you're like, "That's a memory I want to forget."
Well, I mean, a long story short is that two Christmases ago, Merry Christmas, Colin, I went to go buy the new Spider-Man game.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, in my own fault, I just saw December. So I went and pre-ordered and I got the whole thing. I didn't buy.
Spider-Man 2 that didn't review super well.
No, I'm talking about the one that just came out.
Oh, this year? Oh, you're
You
talking about this year?
You
The one
pre-ordered
that-
it
yes.
2 years
Oh,
in
oh,
advance.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
My goodness gracious
So when I
day.
went to go in, I know, seriously,
Good
right?
heavens.
All I saw was December. I'm like, this is going to be great. Give it to him for Christmas. And he's
And they
going to
were
go get
like,
a couple
what
days
are you doing
later.
in here, dude?
And no, they didn't actually even say that to me. I
let
went
you
to go
buy it?
pre-order it, and I decided just to pay it straight out, you know, like whatever, like, you know, warranty they had. I usually get that in case of some defect. And, you know, I was thinking, this is going to be great. He's going to end up, like, loving it. And I think actually at that time, did we even have the PlayStation 4? It might have been, like, for PlayStation 3. I can't even
You would have
remember.
had the PlayStation 4.
I think it was 4. And all of a sudden, like he says, do you know that this isn't coming out till next year?
Oh
And
my
after you, I'm
gosh.
like, what are you talking about right now? I didn't
After
look at-
you bought it?
No, after Christmas. The guy at the counter didn't say anything. I just pre-ordered it because they didn't care. They
man.
were taking my money,
Right.
and I didn't look at the year. That was my fault.
Yeah, it's-
and then, you know, he was excited because it was Christmas, but man, I'm such a dummy. I didn't look at the year.
Did you
And
finally
then,
get it?
Oh, I did finally. 2 years later.
Did you guys beat it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's doing the
Got
side
your money's
stuff.
worth.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 years later, because then they kept extending and extending. Like, you got to be kidding me.
What did you
right
guys think
now.
about the game?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic.
that's
And
good.
he's doing a lot of it right now with, like, the side missions, you know, because
Good,
he's
good.
just kind of going and exploring. But it's still unbelievable. And there's so many Easter eggs in
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
the
Yeah.
other thing. You know, just, like, going up onto, like, Avengers Tower
Yeah,
was really
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have it. I never finished the story. I just fly around the city.
Well,
for
that's
an hour
the thing.
and then get off.
And that's the thing with video games now. I mean, like when I grew up, you couldn't really just like do that because, like, let's use Mario as an example. You either were going to be chased to death, or you had like a time
limit,
time that's running out.
right.
I mean, you know, when you mentioned
a good point.
when you mentioned Rockstar when it comes to Grand Theft Auto, I mean, you know, many people like finish the game and go through like the missions, but you can easily get sidetracked and just like drive around in a cab like the whole time, listening to like the radio.
Yeah,
feed.
seriously.
When you could do that, but I don't know why someone would do that when you could just go driving around and listen to the radio.
Dude, that's a good point. That's my one
It's true,
biggest
yeah.
criticism of Red Dead. I miss the radio kind of like. The radios in GTA were so nice.
And let me just throw this out there, Andrew.
Say it.
Couldn't they have had a radio?
Well,
When was the radio invented?
that's
Yeah,
a good
Yuri,
question.
that's a Yuri question.
That's not mine.
That's a Mark.
That's
That's a
well
Mark.
before
But
my
imagine,
dad.
is anybody still watching us?
That's
when
well
was the
before
radio
my
invented?
dad.
dad.
There's a lot of people
That's well before
When was
my
the radio
dad.
invented?
Radio.
Hey, are we doing well on time or like?
Oh, dude, you're
yeah,
golden.
we're good.
You are golden.
I'm not talking too much.
No,
am I?
No.
All right.
But I mean, it would have been weird though. You're on your horse and.
Well, I know, but
music
like if
on
you
the-
walk into town or like
Uh,
I guess there were pianos in the bars and stuff.
That was
Yeah.
probably it, but no, like radio.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask those questions?
1920, so it would have been like 20
So
years
heck
after,
no, yeah. There's no radio.
Yeah.
You gotta just talk to people.
Diamond City Radio for Life. That's a Fallout comment. Noel Weber, thanks for the Diamond City Radio.
Fallout has good radio. I love GTA's radio, man.
It's
There was
so
so much,
good.
and they would update it with like
But they
half
would-
real
yeah.
songs, half like
Yes.
satire.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought it was particularly interesting. I think it was Vice City, where I'm pretty certain it was that one
Yeah.
where Snoop Dogg ended up coming up with
Yeah.
3 or 4 original songs specific just to the game. You didn't
Yeah.
actually hear it anywhere
Right.
else. You had to actually you could
And
hear it
Red
in the
Dead
game,
has a
particularly like when you just
exclusive soundtrack.
turn the station. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing. That's the exclusivity for it is actually interesting, and you know they can get the money. They can get the money and
Yeah.
get somebody to do that. You know because the uniqueness that is there because it doesn't become so commercialized.
Yeah, definitely. Jonah Pearson just tuned in, said, "Is that the 2017 fastest deck advisor in the nation?"
Yeah, that is me.
Thanks for tuning in, Jonah.
Yeah, I'm glad that you remember that time. Remember, I asked on a side note, you know, I caught that home run ball. Remember that, Jonah?
That's right.
Oh yeah, cool inside jokes. Yeah, just go on this podcast. No, just kidding.
It was a Braves game, right? Or
It was
no?
No, it was an Angels game.
Oh,
but
out
I'm not
there, yeah,
making
yeah.
this stuff up. I can't control it. I mean, like this past week when I was in NYC with the students, we went to.
I saw
a
you on the
game.
jumbotron.
I
I
ended-
saw.
I ended up
Yeah.
Wait, which
I-
game did you go to?
It was the Grizzlies versus Nats. I
Oh,
I
wow.
caught the T-shirt that was shot up into the crowd, and then I ended up getting on the jumbotron because they wanted me to dance with the
nice.
T-shirt on. So
Dang, dude.
I came. I had my dancing shoes on.
Dude, you're just always on.
If you have any questions for Mr. Jason Yuri, throw them in the chat.
do we have any more
will
news
ask him.
transitions, or is that all our news?
News transition. I was gonna talk about our holiday plans for gaming or entertainment, but I want to ask you something real quick.
Sure.
Have you heard of and/or what are your thoughts towards virtual reality gaming?
Once again, I'm not as old as you think, okay? 'Cause
And I'm
I
not
did
suggesting you're
play
old. I'm
video
not
games.
suggesting you're
no,
old.
I'm just kidding. Yes,
Yeah.
I am aware of what
Finish
virtual.
it.
Yeah, exactly. I should throw my hand over like.
Slayer.
No, I am familiar with virtual
Yeah.
reality.
And what do you think about it?
It's funny you say that because I'll have you go and look it up and how I remember Nintendo tried to like put something out virtual reality like in the 90s, well ahead of its time, and it didn't do
Failed
well as a
miserably.
product that it was failed. I think it's actually rather neat.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do like it. I'm not gonna lie. I really, really, really like Ready Player One. I thought the
Okay,
movie was
yeah.
fantastic.
It was fun.
and a lot of it was because it was throwback to the
Yeah,
80s.
Easter
and
eggs,
everything.
man.
Bunch of
And like all of them
different
were
Yeah.
there, and I could identify a lot of them. And it's interesting to like see a movie like that. And after I went to go see it with both my boys, but talking with my eldest. How far away are we from something like an Oasis being in
Not
existence?
far.
Not far.
Not
I
far
don't think
enough.
that we are because I think that you would see that a lot of people actually being involved in that, and I don't think it actually would turn out to be bad either. I think it would be like
think so?
I don't. I think that people would actually do it similar to like what you see, and I know that's movie and
Sure.
and fiction, but yet. I think that's exactly where we are, and I think virtual reality is actually something special, and it's really rather neat.
Yeah. Noel
I
says
think
that
I'll-
he uses VR and AR at work, so like you're already seeing
Yeah.
companies
well,
start
there
to
you-
use
Even
well, there you
Shenandoah
go.
University, our local
Yeah.
university, has a whole course curriculum devoted to VR.
And see, there you go. And hearing Noel comment, we're expanding off from the video games
Yeah.
now. He's using like for
Right.
work and work related.
It's everywhere.
And yes, it is. But I think it is, and I'm ready to like dive into the Oasis or whatever.
You'd be the first to
opens
get
up.
into the Oasis.
Oh, I'd be like the hero in Ready Player
If
One.
you saw me in the Oasis, would you be friends with me?
Yeah.
You promise?
I
Yep.
wouldn't.
I know.
What do you mean?
I wasn't
know?
asking
Oh
you.
my
Go
God.
get over there with your
Seriously.
jingly
Well,
sweater,
what do
dude.
you? I guess. Why are you asking? Are you gonna be like a character that?
He's gonna be an evil character.
I would identify. You would know it was me. I would let you know it was me, and then you would recognize me before I recognize you, and you would have
well,
a
then
choice.
if that turns out to be the case, listeners,
would shoot me?
Andrew and Caleb, then we have to establish our Easter eggs and our special code ahead of time.
Yeah,
so
that's
that's a good point.
because how do I really know it?
Listen, guys, we already have it. We see each other, just do this.
News time.
And then we know.
But now everybody that
Yeah,
sees us doing
yeah,
that,
that's
so we're
fine.
gonna have to come up with something.
Another one
We'll
off
come
the
up
air.
with another one. But so I think it's interesting that you say that it's gonna be a good thing because I find that when I saw Ready Player One, I was just like seeing the people that just like never left their house. Like people do that already with video games. Like
it's
if that
unbelievable.
happens, I think it's gonna happen again. Like I think that.
Did you like the movie?
I did. I didn't enjoy it, and I think that I think that it is good to say like technology will always improve, but I don't even know if I think it's a good thing because I can see myself not wanting to leave. Like if you establish some sort of thing of
It's funny that you say that too, because as I brought up Ready Player One, I'm thinking about the end too, with that game Adventure from Atari 2600, and I remember playing that game and how simple it it was, and it was at that particular time more complex, but now it's simple. Just being able to try to go through a maze to be able to find things, but that they use that as an 80s reference, into the movie itself.
Sure.
But yeah, I hope that answered your question. But I think it's actually rather neat.
Yeah,
like it.
I'm excited to see what happens with it. I think we're still a few years out from it being reliable.
Yeah.
Maybe a common household thing.
Could be.
I mean, do you have PlayStation VR in your house or anything?
No, I don't.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But
I think we're years away from it being.
couple.
Pinto
I
says
think so.
that there's a VR mode that you can set up a living room in your VR and have a TV in it and watch it.
Yeah, and that's Pinto
See-
brings up a great point. That was the first marketable thing. Was basically you can't stand up and walk around yet, but when you put it on, it will put a fake room and then a big plasma TV, so you don't actually need a living room. It will emulate.
And
a
that's
living
great to hear. Thank you for sharing that, Pinto. Because then I'm thinking you said it within a couple of years. I'm thinking within 10 years.
Yeah.
You have to remember things take time,
Yeah.
and it becomes so much. In the movie, of course, it was a movie. Everyone had it, but
was
you
already-
Did they say what year it was?
They did.
They
22.
did, but you have to remember so much time has passed where it becomes.
What year was Ready Player One? Hit the chat.
Where it came much more affordable, or or I guess accessible for everybody.
30 years in the future.
Accessible for everybody to be
Yeah,
able
that's
to
not
have.
true.
But that's
So-
dystopian. That's
Well,
the
no,
whole
that's-
society
yeah,
falls.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we're talking about realization and how, in 5 to 10 years, can that be available for us based on how our
Yeah,
lives
and
are?
you say no?
I think so.
Yeah,
I really
think
do.
so. Yeah,
It
5
really
to 10 years.
depends on how they actually go about making it available for everyone.
Right.
Is it going to be available large mainstream, or is it going to come out like anything new and be wicked expensive?
Yeah,
and
I
you
can
know,
see it
only
being
for-
sort of like a switch where it comes out pretty expensive, pretty exclusive drops, but then as it goes, they start making a lot more and more affordable.
Well, it's like with anything. I mean, and they would need to adjust that fast because if they want people to be involved, then they needed to make it affordable because
Yeah.
they would have they would be losing out.
And smartphones are shipping augmented reality and virtual reality capable now, so we're definitely heading in that direction. But that's crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
It's wild.
Do you have virtual reality?
I don't, and I was so close to buying
Yeah,
it.
you've been so close the past couple of weeks.
So there's nothing I haven't purchased in the last 6 months as far as video games are concerned, except VR. There was a bundle for $200. You
are
get
you-
the wands and
Are you talking technology related
Yeah, he's
that you
got
haven't
everything,
purchased,
PlayStation,
or
Switch.
just video
okay,
games.
for video games and other items
and every
like that?
a lot of game, every AAA big time game of this fall
Okay.
I bought, but VR I just can't quite get behind yet.
Okay.
There's not a big enough library of games yet for that.
yeah.
It's not. It hasn't reached its full potential.
Yeah.
I mean, they just got over the motion sickness hurdle.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I
how
would
you know
actually
they're
like.
early.
I would like, and I'm glad I'm hearing you say that because when I reference the movie and talking about how the Oasis was, I would like to see it accessible like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you can just go in
Yeah.
and tap in and go into
Right now, if you do it, it
different
feels-
worlds. Not necessarily just like the gaming. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, gaming
Yeah.
is fine.
Right.
But
No, yeah, I was much more inclined to what Pinto said of a reliable idea of emulating all this stuff.
yeah, I enjoyed hearing that. I liked
whatever.
that.
But
That's crazy.
anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
This for now though, I got plenty of good games to play.
Yeah.
Smash Bros coming out.
True.
What are the holiday plans for you two?
Well,
Like, are you going to
games
be
like-
playing games, or is it going to be more of watching movies? Do you have a Christmas tradition? Is there family time to enjoy?
Yeah, more than likely I will because I just like to pass the time away, and I know
Yeah.
like with this particular holiday and the time frame that we have off from school, it's a little bit longer. So I'll play the games, with my boys on PS4 or the Switch, and I may end up just playing with the Nintendo Classic or the Super NES Classic that
Okay.
I have.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was happy to find that too, because God knows, from when you jumped at a time from NES to Super NES,
Right.
you ever played any games on it? It was definitely fun.
Yeah.
Really fun.
That's cool.
I
What about
think, Christmas for me is Nintendo time.
Really?
Family,
Yeah, I love it.
Nintendo,
I love
family.
it.
Like, one of our cousins usually invests in a Switch. Before it was Wii U. But now that we have Switch, everyone's going to get together, play Mario Kart, play Smash.
Yeah.
And, board games. It's really, it used to be, Xbox, when we could, LAN parties,
Right.
Internet to 360s. But now it's Nintendo. It's just so much easier. It's so much more accessible. I mean, Xbox was kind of like a guy's thing. It was let's drink Mountain Dew and play Xbox. Now with older female, my sister's grown up, female cousins, they want to be I want to play.
I can see
Nintendo is a
that.
good
And
way to do that.
that's a great example because I don't know if we answered your one question of why
yeah.
Nintendo's characters are so lovable.
Oh,
we
well.
never came,
Sure, yeah.
and when I hearing Andrew say that regarding Nintendo, I think it's because the characters are very simplistic.
Yeah.
We're used to them, and there's many different types of games that you can play with them, and I think that's where that popularity and fandom happens to be because you can see that they've actually crossed over, not just from say starting off in Donkey Kong and then to a Mario Brothers, which was arcade, and it was so terrible because you weren't really doing anything.
That first
to,
Mario Brothers was terrible.
To then Super Mario Brothers, and then
Yeah.
we're talking about all the other ones that happened to be available, and then of course when they added them together with the Super Smash Brothers, it's just something that I think that people can identify with because I'm interested in knowing what a lot of your followers and users, what their favorite Nintendo characters are, because you probably end up seeing an array of different ones that are there. And it was funny to hear Andrew say Nintendo Family Time. That's probably another reason why, because the Nintendo came out and to be more family oriented. I think particularly with the Wii, or Wii Wii U. Thank you. And a lot of the games, were just definitely family oriented. Because when I'm hearing them say family time for the holidays, how many people out there had Wii parties for with the Wii Sports or something along that line? Yeah. Easy enough to do, but enough to and fun to of course play with other people.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to hear that those are the answers that you gave me because, and you'll appreciate this from even just a marketing standpoint and revenue. Nintendo's yearly profits, okay?
Yep.
60% comes from October, November, December.
It's incredible.
Their holiday season is incredible.
Yeah.
Nintendo is what
yeah.
I mean. What are you going to get your
Switch for
dad
Christmas.
for a gift?
Yeah.
Those classics, right? That old stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to have that be their secondary thing. If you're a PlayStation family, throughout the year you're buying stuff. But Christmas is a time to get something else.
And here's the thing where it ends up it works for them because well, for example, I told you how I ended up inheriting Sony and a PlayStation type person.
Sure.
And it makes sense for me to hear a lot of kids that I've had in high school, such as your age, or kids in high school now that either have Sony and or the Xbox. But it's because Xbox came out so much later.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nintendo did a very smart job of coming out with these NES Classic, Super NES, because now they've tapped in onto a different target market of people that could end up buying it, and even though it's not that expensive, they're selling games once again that people grew up with, and because you may not have fun playing with them, or my youngest may not have any fun by looking at it and thinking, what the heck is this, but other people may.
And they didn't have to work on that. It's not like Nintendo had to come up with new games.
I'm actually interested in knowing if what I read sometime in the summers too, when Sony's going to end up dropping their classic version of a
Yeah.
PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2.
They
'Cause
did.
They did, or will?
Yeah,
Or
2 weeks ago. They did.
It's out in the store.
Yeah, and guess what?
Well, I gotta get out of there, guys.
But no, guess what?
What?
Not good.
Really?
They hate it.
Who hates it?
Everyone.
Well, I gotta get this.
So here's
Okay, I got.
He's
Damn
gonna be
it.
the judge
so,
of that.
so
Damn it,
let
ask
me
me,
let me
right?
explain to you what it
Well,
is.
what are the games? I didn't know that
Exactly.
came out. Oh my
No,
god,
yeah,
I'm so
okay.
mad right now.
Okay,
Usually
so-
I'd be in line first trying to get these things.
You missed it, dude.
All right,
Like I
so
did with, like,
can you
God,
pull
I
up?
did that with
can
the
you pull up
classic. I was
PlayStation
like,
Classic?
Yeah, we
fighting
looked it up.
people.
We did it on a podcast live, right?
Yeah.
We looked at the game.
PlayStation
I
Classic.
think I was elbowing people
Okay.
just to be able to
Relax.
get that.
It,
Oh,
so Yuri,
sorry.
I'm gonna
I need more.
can I paint you a picture?
Oh my god, I need more water.
Okay. Can I paint you a picture? Yeah. It's called the PlayStation Classic, and it's this
Okay.
big.
Okay.
It looks identical to the first PlayStation.
Okay.
And it HDMI's to your TV, and it comes with the original controller. No
Okay.
analog stick, just the
Okay,
old school
okay.
arrows. It comes with 20 launch games, but
What are the games?
All right.
Oh, sorry.
yeah, he'll read them
More
for you.
water.
Okay, so
I'm
that's
almost
what
out.
it looks identical, but
almost out.
people's problem with it is the games don't run smoothly, and they're basically just trying to copy Nintendo, and it's pure nostalgia.
Well, they that definitely sounds like it, and I mean, when I ended up seeing that, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, they're jumping on that bandwagon because they see how successful
Yeah.
Nintendo is.
People just say it's not
and
fun to play.
How
Okay.
much money they were net making.
Here we go.
Okay, so
Battle-
let me ask you a question.
Whoa! I'm gonna have the games here.
All right, go ahead.
Battle Arena, Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, Final Fantasy 7.
Okay, that's good.
Grand Theft Auto,
The first one was
Intelligent
all right.
Cube, Jumping Flash, Metal Gear Solid is a good
All right,
game.
that's good.
Mr.
Yeah.
Driller, Oddworld,
What the heck
Abs,
was that?
Odyssey,
I don't remember
Rayman, that's good.
Oh yeah.
Resident Evil,
Yeah, there you
Revelations,
go,
Persona, Ridge Racer, Super Puzzle, Siphon, Filter, Tekken 3,
Okay, yeah.
Rainbow Six, Twisted Metal,
Twisted Metal, all right.
Wild Arms. So,
So
like,
there's maybe like
4 or 5
okay,
games.
see,
People
that's,
say it's 5 out of 20 that are worth it.
that's the problem right there.
And there you go, and it's $100.
Yeah, that's the problem. They dropped the ball like with the
Are they
game
gonna
because I
update it?
think there was maybe 5 or 6
It
games.
ships as is. They don't have a network in place to software update.
So that
right?
made me wonder then now, like if it turns out that's a great point actually. That changes my thought. It makes me wonder if like they're going to end up putting another release out because of the fans
might.
complaining
And
or
they should do the PS2.
making some comments.
Yeah.
Like if they were smart, and I don't know if it's because they have just such a large catalog of games. Because
Right.
the same thing like with Nintendo, but Nintendo did a smart job of putting out the games that we all like remember.
Right,
What they
exactly.
should do, what it sounds like they didn't do with this PS1 Classic, is
they have potential.
Well, and here's
hold
what
on,
they
hold
did.
on. What they
Yeah.
didn't do, what they should do, is they should ask us what we'd like to see.
Well, right, and here's what they did: is those 5 that you even recognized,
Yeah.
they were the first 5 that they revealed to let pre-orders come in, and then they said, "Here's the other 15," and all of them were trash.
Yeah.
So people were already kind of betrayed, and then they get it, and it doesn't run smoothly. It runs very
That's
glitchy.
interesting.
to
That's
the people,
interesting.
you gotta listen
Yeah.
to the people.
They should really go out of their way to
They were
point out-
throwing it. They were throwing it out the door. It was nostalgia.
um,
Nostalgia button. That's it.
No, that's disappointing to actually hear. I mean, and I'm actually glad to hear this because I could have found myself being that type of person to
go
actually
buy
go
it.
out and buy it,
Yeah.
and then I would have been
disappointed.
disappointed.
Well, then here's the thing. I just saved you $100. What are you
You
going to
will-
get me for Christmas?
You did.
Listen,
I-
we didn't
I-
hear your answer about what you're going to be doing in Christmas for gaming.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't tell us that.
Oh, I
'cause,
can't wait to get the PlayStation Classic. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh my god!
Because your mom said
Seriously,
she's
so
gonna-
this guy's just mad.
Yeah.
That he actually spent it, and he's still trying to figure out a way to get his $100 back.
There you go.
Not out of my pocket because he's trying to say
That's how he's gonna do
saved
it.
me. Absolutely.
Your mom says
Oh
she's
my
going to
God.
compete with you on Just Dance on the Switch.
That's true. I've been playing Just Dance 2019 with my mom.
All right, there you
Just
go.
Dance is fun. It's like a workout, dude.
There you go.
So what's your holiday gaming look like?
2 answers. One is single player. I'll be playing Assassin's Creed on PlayStation 4.
Finish God of War.
I need to finish God of War. I'm going to actually try to do that soon as possible.
Is that it? For single player?
That's probably it for single player. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's-
one thing that I do every holiday season is play GTA Online because they update the map with snow, and I drive around with some of my buds.
Do you think they'll do that with Red Dead Online?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That'd be kind of nice. Like a first Christmas. in
I
Red
bet
Dead.
you they don't because
Yeah,
they're in
you're right.
beta still.
You're right.
But yeah, I'm excited for that. My brothers will be back. We'll have all our Xboxes going, so we'll be.
You'll be able to duel against
It'll be
each
in
other.
person part, and then Smash. I mean, we have Smash.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
There you go.
We'll be doing that.
Holiday
But
gaming.
That's exciting.
It's funny you say that, but that's so true because I can clearly remember like when we ended up getting the different consoles, and it was for Christmas time, of course, as
Yeah,
presents,
always
and
Christmas
then
presents.
playing with them like after, and it is something that I think people do like around the holidays. But you have that time available, you know, and it's one of those things that makes I guess the holidays fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
Guys, we covered so much ground.
We covered ground. Jason, Uhry, Mr. Uhry.
That's fine.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Fun.
I'm hoping that if anything, I've increased some of your viewership.
Some viewers, yeah.
I'm hoping that if anything, I increased some of the old.
Well, you're not getting any of the revenues.
Media Interactive has officially peaked,
the older,
ladies and gentlemen.
generation, and I'm hoping that like your subscribers, like going, particularly after like you post this this live.
Oh, we'll post it. I want you to share it and show your students. High school students are our demographic, so we're excited to also come in and talk to them about it.
Do you think that they're going to actually like this, or do you
I think they will love it.
Do you think they'll actually listen to everything I have to say?
Yeah. You had like over 10 viewers.
Who the heck am I fooling? Of course they're I'm totally awesome.
You're totally awesome. Shout out to all those over at YouTube that joined us during the podcast. Thank you to our patrons. Andrew, we're going to be doing again another giveaway, the Media Interactive t-shirt. You can find that on our social media, M Interactive XYZ on Instagram and Twitter. You can find our homepage at patreon.com/Media Interactive. Everything gets uploaded there. Everything gets uploaded to YouTube. Please subscribe there. That way you can see what we do when we do it, as we do it, right there for you.
Share this for these guys. They deserve it. This is actually something special, and I actually enjoyed being invited here today. Hope maybe another time we can continue to talk more games, because God knows that I probably didn't cover the ground of all of my history.
And next time we'll actually play some games.
That'd be fun. In video game history, but keep spreading the word so that way
it grows.
Yeah.
It continues to grow.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Much love.
Big addition,